Hello and welcome. Nice to see everybody starting to come in. Welcome, welcome. I am Georgina Donahue, the Director of Community here at Pragmatic Institute. Today, I've got the great pleasure of being joined by not one, but two guests. We have Eric Johnson, AHA Knowledge Base Manager, and Ian Templin, Director of Product at Pragmatic Institute. They are going to lead us through a shared discussion on how to help your teams achieve the full picture of product success. And so in this session, Ian is going to be chatting through several of our core pragmatic principles, and Eric is going to share a live demonstration of how you can really apply those principles within the many features that live within the AHA Roadmaps tool. So as you are all hopping on, I see lots of familiar names and a bunch of wonderful new faces as well. Tell me in the chat below, what is your favorite thing that's on your roadmap right now? And so enter that in the chat. As you are putting those answers in, make sure that you put them in the chat box below as you're looking down at the bottom. That's really the best place for you to swap ideas with peers while Eric and Ian are guiding us through this session. And definitely make sure you select everyone from the dropdown. Otherwise, it's just me who reads them, and I love them, but it makes me feel selfish. Now, if you have any questions that you'd specifically like for Eric or Ian to answer, we are going to have a Q&A period at the end of this session. So make sure that you use the separate Q&A box down below. That is further to the right. That's the best place to log your questions. I keep an eye on those and I flag them for our hosts towards the end of the session. A quick heads up for everybody, this session is absolutely being recorded. We don't want to miss a single second of it ourselves, and you are going to receive a copy in your inbox in the next coming days. Ian, you can pop me to the next slide, please, where I get to introduce us all. So once again, welcome. I'm Georgina Donahue. I'm the Director of Community at Pragmatic Institute. One alum of our community recently said that the community is like having a gazillion friends tell you what they've done with the lessons they learned. And so the community is really all about real life experiences and conversations with other product people. Sessions like this one that connect you to thought leaders in the space are just one way that we do that, in addition to so many more. So if you're not an alumni yet, I hope that you will become one and join us there. Today, we are joined by both Eric and Ian. Eric Johnson is an experienced Scrum Master with a passion for really evaluating competing sprint priorities. I'm sure many of you can relate to that, creating engaging training content, and really being a liaison between customer-facing and technical teams. Of course, he's also incredibly passionate and hugely knowledgeable about sharing his in-depth knowledge of AHA's product development tools. So we really look forward to hearing more from him today. Ian Templin is an experienced educator, creator, and product professional. He's the Director for Product Management for Pragmatic's product vertical. So he and his team of instructional designers are the ones that are creating and refining really purposeful and inspiring learning experiences that meet the needs of the very best audience in the world, you. So welcome very much, Eric and Ian. I really can't wait for our group to hear from you. I'm going to go ahead and pass the reins over for you both to say hello and share some more.
Absolutely. Eric, if you want to give a quick hello.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. The favorite thing on my roadmap right now, because I use it in a personal life, is potty training. I have a toddler, and it's we thought it was going to be a feature. It's an epic. It's going well. I'm really excited to apply these learnings both professionally and domestically today.
Excellent. That's going to be a hard one to beat. I'm Ian Templin. Similarly on my roadmap, I think, as Georgina had mentioned, I have the best job in the world in that my audience and the people that I work for are all of you, also product professionals. And so it's always, what are you all looking for? What problems are you looking to solve? That's how I find the next right thing to do. And that's why I think you're here today, is that you're trying to find that right balance of what tools and training will help you and your teams be most successful. And I think that's so important for you to think about and validate, because success is not the natural state of business, unfortunately. The stats don't lie that most businesses, not just startups, but businesses even down to features, often don't succeed. I think probably all of us on this call have some experience or scars of a feature that we just knew was going to rock our customers, and it got used once or maybe never. Or we launched a new product out into the world, and instead of hitting with a bang, it hit with kind of a whimper or a thud. And there's a lot of reasons that happens. And many of these you've probably experienced, but the number one that you see up there at the top, the stats don't lie, the number one reason that things often fail is that there's a lack of need in the market, or put more bluntly, we're building products that nobody wants. And why does that happen? Well, oftentimes what we here at Pragmatic call inside out thinking occurs, which is we're very focused on the product we have today. And if we just put it in the right price to the right place with the right promotion, it's just going to fly off the shelf. But unfortunately, there's a missing P kind of at the center of all of this that we really need to be focused on. And in our foundations class, we talk about the problem being right what's at the center. If we're not starting with a problem that exists out in the market, we're likely to create something that may be cool for us, that may be fun for our engineers to work on, that might be exciting for sales to sell, but it's not something that the market is looking for. So we've got to start with the problem. So how do you discover those problems? This is something we dig deeply into our foundations class. The CEO of Box.com tells us that you'll learn more in a day talking with customers than a week of brainstorming, a month of watching competitors, or a year of market research. Now, all of those things are absolutely important and critical, but if you're not getting out into the market, you're missing the opportunity to capture those problems. And I'd say there's kind of 3 potholes that we need to watch out for. The first one is just not doing it, getting stuck into firefighting and your day-to-day tactical work, and not carving out that time to get out into the market and listen. We think that's so important. We have an acronym for it, and all of my Pragmatic alumni are already probably cheering it right now on the webinar. That's NAHITO. Nothing important happens in the office. Bold statement. What we're saying there is, of course, the work you do with your team matters. Of course, the work that you're doing, liaising with your executive teams and sales and marketing and everyone else matters. But if you're not getting out in the market, you're not learning. And this is one of the actual really benefits of this new kind of digital world that we're in, of having Zoom and Google Meet. It's much easier to get FaceTime with someone that you want to go out and reach. So pothole number 1 is not doing it at all. You've got to fix that, carve out the time. Pothole 2, the thing you want to be careful of is that when we do find that time, we often focus in on just our customers. They're the easiest to reach, and they love to tell us the next thing we should work on. But they have a very unique view of what it is that they want us to be working on and building. At Pragmatic, we recommend that you aim for at least 10 visits a quarter, and you do it across a whole market segment. So not just those customers, the people who found a problem and were super smart and came to you for the solution, but also those evaluators that have also realized they have a problem, but they're out looking for a solution, and you want to make sure that you're connecting with them to show why yours is the right one. And then the potentials. We're out there trying to find those people that maybe haven't realized they have the problem, but we think that they do. And if we can talk to all of those, then we can find and capture problems that resonate across that market segment. So pothole 2 to avoid is not getting stuck just talking to customers. You absolutely want to talk to them, but broaden the horizons. And we dig deep into how to do that in foundations. Pothole 3, you've been a good doobie, as Georgina says. You've gone out, you've done the work, you've captured your NAHITO, you've written it down, and then you put it in a digital drawer. Unfortunately, it goes into the thing that maybe just the product team sees, or maybe just you, it's in your folder, and it's not getting shared with your engineering teams or your development teams. They're going to lose the market context, and that's going to be a through line throughout the whole thing today. So how do we make sure that that market data that we're capturing gets into the hands of the people that need to see it most? Eric is going to show you the way that AHA does that.
Thank you, Ian. I'm also going to share my screen, and look how flawless that was. You all can see the data model there. Hope, good. Okay, so many well-meaning product managers do great research, just like Ian said, but it goes in a drawer, it's filed. And so there's a struggle to integrate that into your product decisions. To mitigate that, it's a great idea to store your research in the same tool where you define your work, your roadmap and prioritize work. And that's what you're looking at now. This is AHA Roadmap. So we created this for product teams to define what we call the why, the when, and the what of product development. And from this, you can build different types of roadmaps to different audiences. You can define and prioritize work here. And then you see these arrows, you connect it all the way back up to your overall product strategy and the market research that informs it. We're here in Fredwin Cycling. This is a demo product workspace, kind of an activity tracking application that we created. The data is real. The names have been changed to protect the innocent. And for this section of the webinar, I'm going to show you 3 parts. We're going to talk notebooks, strategy, and ideas. Let's jump into the notebook. So this right here is your single source to gather all that research. This is where notes and whiteboards live in AHA roadmaps. You can create one from scratch, of course, but you can also use a template. We have a growing library of templates here for each kind of step of the product development lifecycle, including some methodological ones if your developer team follows safe. But this is also where you can create and customize your own template. So a lot of your pragmatic worksheets live right here. Market discovery document, distinctive competencies, a KPI worksheet. This is kind of where we say Nihito has a home. This is an evaluator interview that I put together earlier. You can see I can mention other members of my team. We've had a great discussion here. We can also link it to potential work items or other meeting notes, all on one place here. And if I'm using a template, that gets applied every time somebody conducts one of these interviews. So we're oriented towards the work the same way. Over here on the left is a pretty colorful document hierarchy. So this is where everything from meeting agendas to customer potentials, evaluator research lives. And so everyone can gather ideas and insights into one place and then use that to inform, here's my transition, their strategy. So strategy is the why of what you do. And in AHA, we've designed it so that work links back up to this strategy so that everybody knows why their work matters when they're working on it. You'll hear me say that a couple times today. There's a lot in here. I'm just going to briefly touch on a couple things. We break this into foundation, market, and imperatives. And it all kind of starts with vision right here. So this visualization looks really simple, but this is our true north that guides the product team. And it's also should express the ultimate problem that we're trying to solve as a product or as a company. And it also informs our business models. So here's strategic models in AHA roadmaps. Once again, there's templates, a lot of classic ones here that you recognize, lean canvas, SWOT, that sort of thing. But you can also, of course, create and customize your own. For example, a segment profile here comes standard with AHA roadmaps. I could change this around, move components. I can also turn it into, you might recognize this, the segmentation worksheet, which I got from the community forum that you and I are both members of, and just applied with my own coloring and my own text and my own data right here. Once I've created a strategic model based on the pragmatic framework in my account, then anyone in my account, that's maybe not even just in my product, but across my whole portfolio of products, can think and go through the steps in the same way. Okay, so that's strategic models. Let's talk about personas. So persona profiles, kind of the market side of strategy, are here to help us remember the people, the little faces, I guess, and legs and bicycles in this case, of the people that we're building for, the folks we talk to, whether they're customers or not, the people whose actual problems we're trying to solve, that kind of missing P that Ian was talking about earlier. Once again, I can customize any of this, move components around, whatever is helpful to me. But the main point is, and I'll show you this a little later, I can link back, and I probably should link work back to this. So in my own work in AHA internally, I always have someone's name in a feature I'm working on or an epic I'm working on. So I have that constant reminder of the people I'm building for. Last thing I want to show you, there are goals and imperatives, or excuse me, goals and initiatives in strategy, but I want to talk about those in prioritization. So I'm going to jump ahead to ideas here. There's an element of Nihito that is always on, right? It's great to have those really in-depth person-to-person meetings with potential customers and evaluators, but you need to balance that with collecting regular feedback from as many people as possible, right? There is this balance and art to product management that way. And that's where ideas portals comes in. So what you're looking at here is the official AHA ideas portal. Anyone, customer or not, with this URL can come here and give us feedback. They often do. You can see we've got thousands of ideas here, and we review every one of these regularly and as quickly as possible. so that we can have an ongoing conversation with the people who actually want or need a thing. In fact, you are welcome, please do, if you start a trial or not, to come here and talk about what might be great to add or to tweak in AHA products. This is a great way to engage with our community. In fact, there's whole parts of our product that came from a single customer conversation. You'll see this a little later. I'm able to promote customer ideas to elements, to records on my roadmap, and create that link back to, in this case, the 414 people who care about capacity planning, that sort of thing. This is what it looks like from the outside. From inside your AHA account, I'm back in Freshman Cycling, it looks like this. So I've got some stats on my portal here, and then along with some other things, I can review new ideas as they come in. I always see the new ones. So this could be my morning discipline if I'm a product manager, weekly, kind of depending on your cadence. But this lets me not only track the votes, but also comment, have a conversation with the people who care about a new thing. Okay, that's market research and Nihito and how to gather that and form it into your strategy. I think next we're talking about prioritization with Ian. I'm going to stop sharing.
Are. And look at that, unmuted.
Look at that, it's fast.
And shared screen. Let's celebrate the little things, friends. So yeah, Eric just actually demonstrated a couple of things that are very, very helpful. One is, as you saw in that idea portal, there are always problems to be solved and great ideas that people have. We are, as product people, kind of by our nature, problem solvers, and we want to see a problem, sink our teeth into it and solve it. But you're never going to have the amount of resources that you want or need to be able to solve every problem. And frankly, you shouldn't solve every problem. So once we've done that work of going out, finding those problems in the market, understanding them, making sure that we're putting a face to them, which we're going to talk about a little more in a little bit as well, we then have to do some kind of, we got to be hard about how do we validate those problems to make sure they're ones that should actually be solved. And then are they the right ones for us to solve? And if we do that, we can get down to the things that we really want to spend our time and money on as product people, building out the plan to get approval, to get something onto our roadmap. In our foundations course at Pragmatic, we have a three-pronged test that we use to decide, is this a problem that really should be solved out in the market? Those three things are urgency, pervasiveness, and willingness to pay. So urgency, is this a problem that's going to require immediate action? Is this something people are feeling right now? And is that an urgency that's going to last long enough for you to put a solution into market and to see whatever results you're looking for from that solution? Is this a temporary pain, or is this something that's going to be around for a while and people are feeling that need to solve this? Pervasiveness asks, is this widespread? You know, you've all been in the same boat as I have, where you've heard, oh my gosh, everybody would want this. And when you say, great, give me 12 people to talk to find out more about it. What? Okay, well, it was 1 or 2 calls that I had, but I know everyone's going to want it. You really need to dig down to, is this a problem that is pervasive enough within a given market or market segment that you're going to have a base of customers that are going to want that solution once it gets out into the world? And then willingness to pay, right? That's the big one. Yes, I have a problem that's really urgent for me. Yes, it is pervasive, not just for me, but for other people like me. Am I willing to pay for it? And understanding that payment doesn't always mean money. Maybe that's attention or data or something else. Am I willing to give something up to have that problem get solved? Once I've used that three-prong test, I've kind of moved from a problem to an opportunity. Then I have to decide, are we, as my company, the right person to solve that problem? Are we in the right space to be the ones to jump in and find a solution to that problem or solve that opportunity? First things first, does it fit within our distinctive competencies? Not just this is something we're good at, but this is something we're good at that differentiates us from the other competitors within our market. Is this something that really stands out, whether it's Pragmatic or AHA or whatever your company is, that says this is something that people would say, yes, this makes sense for us to solve? Then we have to look down at, do we have the time, talent, and resources to be able to solve this in a meaningful enough time frame? Think again of urgency and pervasiveness to make it worth solving for us. How red is the ocean that we're considering diving into? What's the competitive landscape look like out there? And then, does this really fit with our ethos? Are we going to solve something that makes sense for us? So we want to take all of those problems in the world, and you have this cool funnel that's also a filter. It's like a funnel that will take all those other opportunities out that aren't right for you. So whatever that looks like, this is a tool that we've been working on for our update to our focus course that we've been trying out with some of our alumni friends. And what's really important here is less what the individual items are on the screen, because you're going to decide what's right for your company. What's really important here is that you're normalizing how it is you're doing prioritization. This is super key for all of those stakeholders that are going to be bringing opportunities your way. If you're working with sales and marketing and they're bringing opportunities your way, or customer success, whoever you're working with, they should know how you take an opportunity and justify and prioritize what it is. That way, you're not running into the issue of, hey, I don't think that I got the attention that I should have for this. You can show a very numeric and clear way that you're prioritizing the things that you're doing. So once again, this is about visualizing your priorities in that common space so that everyone understands how we do it and we can get that collaboration and buy-in. And thankfully, Eric's going to show you some of how to do that in AHA.
I am, but I'm not going to beat Ian's record, apparently. Shoot. Okay, we're there. Okay, this section we're talking about prioritization, just like Ian did, and this is really about filtering, right? You filter down the new opportunities to find the most valuable, and you need to integrate them with what you're already working on, what's already in flight. So I'm going to look at two different use cases. First, to talk about new product opportunities, how to evaluate bringing another product into your portfolio, if you're lucky enough to have a bunch of products. And then secondly, for existing products, how do you prioritize the next most valuable thing to work on in your backlog? Okay, first, let's jump over here to new product opportunities. This, by the way, is the focus of the knowledge base article that we wrote about configuring your AHA account to model the pragmatic framework. So if you want to follow along at home, that URL is coming your way afterwards, but really high level. Basically, we recommend you create a workspace called New Product Assessment to assess new products. It's a great name. And then create each new product opportunity as a strategic initiative, a large theme of work in your account. That allows you to chart them. You might recognize this chart, investment versus impact, and I can click and drag here to change the relative score, well, pretty significantly, it looks like right there, for each new product opportunity. If anything needs to go through stage gates or statuses, I've got a workflow view right here. So this is the kind of the basic workflow for an initiative, but I could add things in here that are really important to the process as I vet new product opportunities. I could put in regulatory or legal reviews here, some sort of budgetary review, something like that. Anything that passes this that we want to really dive down and focus on as something we're serious about, we recommend you create their own workspace. You can see I gave these all code names because that's kind of fun for me, but you could change names whenever you want to. And basically that workspace becomes the home for that new product opportunity and maybe the new product when you decide to launch it. Your market research starts happening there. All of the pragmatic activities happen there. And then if you do decide to go through to launch, this is the home for the entire life cycle of the product from launch to sunsetting would all happen right in there. Okay, that's use case number one. Number two is to talk about work in flight for an existing product. You and I both, I know, without even knowing your names, have a bunch of stuff that you could be working on. The secret is to not pick the squeakiest wheel, but to actually find the thing that's going to add the most business value and customer value if we release it out to the market. So to do that, we're going to take our strategy into consideration, which again is informed by all that research we did and continue to do as we continue to hone the strategy. And we consider a couple other factors as well. So I'm here on an ideas prioritization page. Here's a bunch of ideas that came into my portal. They all have need to view status on. This might be something I'm doing daily or weekly again. And then this is the product value score. This looks a lot like the opportunity scoring table that you saw Ian just show, which is great because as with everything else, you can customize it. This is the default product value scorecard. But you can customize the metrics, the weighting, the equation, the names, whatever's useful for you, as long as you have this number. This is an objective way to compare and evaluate different types of work without having interminable meetings about it. So by default, we're looking at population, how many people want the thing, need, how urgent is it, strategic impact, level of effort, and then confidence metric, which is kind of a fun one. I might evaluate or score work a couple different key points during the product development lifecycle. Here, when I'm scoring ideas, I haven't had development weigh in yet. I might just literally have the one idea description. So if I have a lower confidence metric, you can see that affects the score. Ideally, that goes up once I get this thing onto my actual roadmap. Okay, I can click and drag here to make things a custom ranking if I want to. But the important thing is I can promote ideas directly to my roadmap right here. I can promote to something that's small as a requirement. You might call this a task, subtask, up to a strategic initiative, that large theme of work that's going to take probably several months. This one would probably be a feature. Once I promote it, I create a link between that idea and everyone who's subscribed to that idea and the work on my roadmap. So it actually it brings the people with me into the product development process, not just the persona I'm linking to, but the actual people who care most about it. Let me show you it from the other end. So this is the features board. Right here, you've got releases, which are these containers for work focused around a specific date. And then over on the right, I've got backlogs. So we call these parking lots. Here's an idea that I promoted earlier. And you can see here's the link. There's the original idea, there's the votes, there's the status. As this feature moves through the product development lifecycle at key points, I'm going to, AHA will automatically update people that their idea is actually being implemented. You can customize that to match your company brand voice and things like that. And when it ships, we get this big celebration, and the people who subscribed know how it happens there. We're not to shipping yet, though. Let me show you how to prioritize features within a release. This is another key point in the life cycle that we want to reassess the value of what we're working on before we send this over to engineering or working it on ourselves. This is the features prioritization page. It should look fairly similar to the ideas prioritization page, because it is, and that's intentional. We want you oriented towards prioritization and those value discussions in exactly the same way. And in fact, using the exact same scorecard, hopefully with a higher confidence metric, now that engineering is actually giving you a detailed estimate of effort, and they're starting to log work and that sort of thing. Once again, I can click and drag for a custom ranking. I can sort this by different metrics or the score, and then I can send it over to development. It's been a while since we've talked about roadmaps, but this is not called AHA roadmaps for nothing. We have a lot of roadmaps to choose from. This is actually really neat. The point of that strategy and that prioritization is to get this, a visualization of our plan backed by strategy, to align everyone involved in the process around it. So here's those large themes of work. There's that release there, and the features that support it. I've got critical dependencies here that, as work slips, suddenly become the dangerous shade of red. And these are all living documents. So as I've just clicked around like that, I've actually changed the dates on this feature. This is not a static thing, which works both ways. It means that as things progress, I start to see this roadmap live and up to date. I don't have to spend my time in a past life as the Scrum Master. I used to have to spend Friday for prepping the roadmap for the Monday presentation, right? I can use those hours for something that's much more substantive, and I can share that. Anyone outside my AHA account or inside my AHA account, I can add this to a presentation, kind of a slide deck, a dashboard. I can create a secure web page or even schedule email delivery of this. And while I do that, I can choose based on the audience what people should be able to see, what fields are important for them, even what features are important for them to be able to see, and if they click into things, what I want each audience to be able to see. The point is that, once again, I'm aligning everyone around that grand strategy and the plan in place. Okay, that's roadmaps. I'm going to show you more roadmaps in the next step, but first we're going to have Ian.
Yes, let's go back. A couple of really good points that Eric had just brought up. One is everything that you've seen so far, especially from that pragmatic side, there's a natural inkling to think of that as a brand new thing. What's my brand new product, my brand new initiative? And it absolutely is designed for that, as well as what's the next right thing to add? What's the next right option to add to my existing product? How do I use this sort of layers of prioritization as I go down? It's like turtles all the way down. It's prioritization. A product life is a prioritized life. And so it's no surprise that you're going to see several screens that feel very similar, because at each layer, we're helping to peel away that which is not as essential, but bringing in the very most important stuff for our teams to be working on, so that we're bringing the right value to our company and we're bringing the right value to our customers. So what you're seeing here, this beautiful anachronism that I have in front of you, is a metaphor. We are not suggesting that you go out and empty staples of its 3x5 cards. What we're going to be thinking about now is, how do we, instead of the word salad we sometimes like to create when we're trying to tell our engineering teams or our development teams what it is that we want them to work on, what problem do we want to help them solve, how do we get the most essential information to them so that we're bringing the market forward to them, that continuing theme that we're talking about, as well as giving them the space to use the smarts that they've got, your engineers, your designers, your architects, so that they can bring a solution that really solves the problem without just having to build the thing you're telling them to build. So this is a construct for you to consider on how to capture those problems and get them in the hands of the teams that are going to actually be building the solutions. 4 pieces to this that you want to think about. And Eric has been great about bringing from the get-go, this has to be about a persona, right? There is someone in the market. People have problems. So how do we bring that archetype of that person forward so that our engineering teams feel like they really understand who it is that they're solving for? And that's our persona. That's our who. Our what is the name you see atop there. And that was kind of like the cool nicknames, the secret code names that Eric had mentioned, right? How do we have kind of a shared nomenclature of what this problem is? Because you're going to have a lot of them for any given persona. What's the why? When does this occur, and how does it occur for that persona such that it is a problem that needs to be solved? That's that use scenario. And then when or how often? What is the frequency that this problem occurs? And that's really important to capture and give to your development engineering teams as well, because that's going to help decide what does the design look like, right? Think about a product you may use only once a year. You're going to need a lot of hand-holding. That same hand-holding on a product you use every day is going to feel like very stifling. No shade to my friends at Microsoft, but if Clippy showed up every time I opened Word, I would not be using as much Word as I do today. So that's that kind of thinking about what is the right level of touch point for them. So let's imagine, put ourselves in the place that we're building products for universities or colleges. We may have a persona like Sarah. And once each term, Sarah has to pick courses for the next term, right? She's trying to graduate on time, but it's difficult to analyze the choices and degree requirements, and she's chosen wrong before. So we've not just said, as a user, I want to pick courses so that I can graduate, right? That may be too vague. And we haven't also said, please build a engine that will allow the selection of 17 classes that will write, and that's too stifling. Instead, what we've brought is context. We brought the context to our development and engineering teams so they know who Sarah is, they know what problem she's experiencing it, why is it a problem for her, what has gone wrong for her, and how often is she going to be doing this? And that's going to allow them to really dig in and say, well, maybe this is the way to do it, or maybe this. And I saw in the chat a lot about, I'm hoping to talk more about testing and thinking about what's the right solution, right? If you bring open problems that are really well focused on a persona, then your team has that freedom to do that. The other thing you want to do, and this is really right alongside the ideas portal, and that is how many times, what is the market evidence we're seeing? How often are we hearing this occur? And how much of an impact is solving that problem going to have for Sarah and for that market? So this is, again, one more layer of prioritization down where we can say, hey, let's do it really simple. That amount of evidence times how impactful it is, and that'll help us prioritize. Now, what is that problem? Is that for you an epic? Is that an initiative? Is that a project that you'd build a PRD for? That's really going to depend on what your methodology is and what it is you're trying to do. If you're doing Agile or Waterfall or Lean or Scrum or whatever. Really what's important here is, once again, you're bringing clear and open and collaborative prioritization so that when you go to talk to your teams, we can say, hey, this is what we're seeing in terms of priority. Let's talk about the right groupings. Let's think about the way we want to approach this list so that we're working on the most impactful things for the right personas right away. So we want to provide that context, right? All the way back to the problem. How are we pulling the problem, the person, what's happening and why, so that our development teams, our designers, our architects, our UX can be thinking about the optimal solution for that problem, not just the thing we've told them to build. So Eric's going to jump into some of the ways that AHA can help us there.
Absolutely. I've been practicing while you've been talking. Fast fingers. Okay. So far we've used our initial research to drive strategy and prioritization. And now it's time, I think, in this next step to talk more about getting into the details and moving how to actually build this stuff. Work closely with engineering to deliver those market-driven requirements. So let me take you back to the features board. You might recognize this from earlier. Just to reassess or reorient you, each column is a release, a container for work organized around a specific date. And over on the right here, we've got parking lots. You might also call these backlogs. And these are features. So we've shown you this before, but I want to go one slight level deeper here to show you more about it. Here's that top athlete analytics feature. Here's that idea we promoted it from. And here are the personas. I can add more if I want to. This is demo data, so you see Paul and Nick and Rachel show up a couple times there. But this is something in my layout that I've chosen to prioritize. I could customize this and move it up a little bit so that the person is literally top of layout as well as top of mind as I'm building it for. And when I'm ready to move this into something I want to build, I drag it over here into a release, and then it's ready to send to engineering. In fact, let me show you that. Here's a feature this builds out a little bit better. Okay, so I want to involve the engineering teams, if you are software, product, manufacturing, whatever, what have you, I want to send strategic context with them when I send the work over, right? I don't just want them to implement things. It's really important that everybody who works in this product understands why it matters and who it matters for. And I can do that through integration. So we've got about 30 different integrations, whatever your development team prefers, Jira, Azure, Rally, GitHub, what have you. We've got an integration that talks with that, so that engineering can stay in a tool designed for them that they just love, or mostly love in the case of some of those, and that you can stay in a tool designed for product teams, and that we can break down the barriers of the communication between them. So right now I can click here and I'm integrated with Jira in this workspace, send this to one of a couple different Jira teams, and not just send the specs and the requirements, but I can includes custom field mapping. So I can determine to send the description or something about the persona or kind of whatever is helpful to send over with them. And this is a bi-directional integration if I want it to be. So they can send back not only status updates, but their changes of status can trigger status changes on my side as well. They can send back effort estimates, and of course we can comment and have conversations about how things are going. So I don't have to manually check in with them. I can just see my roadmap update. In fact, let me show you right here. This is the strategic roadmap. You saw this before. I showed it to you, but I didn't show you everything because I wanted to do this live. This can also include progress. Or would if I click the button correctly. I just click to hide it. Sometimes I get talking while I'm on these things and get way too excited. Okay, you just saw the bars change while I was babbling. Now I've got a roadmap that not only visualizes my strategy, but shows how I'm progressing towards my goal. And this came through integrated records. So as development teams close issues and features, and that rolls up to different things, it can show progress here. So I know that expand partnerships is doing great. It's well on its way, but this whole feature or this whole release might be having a little bit of trouble. Once again, this is something that I can share with everybody, so everyone's aligned around the same sort of thing. We also, for some dev teams, they want to work in the same product as a product team, but retain their own workflows and kind of their own spaces. So we've launched something called AHA Develop. So AHA Roadmaps for product teams, AHA Develop for develop teams. You guys would share the same records here and but have two different workflows at the same time. So you don't have to worry about field mapping or anything like that. But the point is that however your development team chooses to work and however you choose to work with them, we've got a way to share that communication bidirectionally in real time. So we go from there. Okay, I showed you a lot today on a very kind of surface level for AHA Roadmaps. It was really fun for me. I hope it was not overwhelming for you. If you've got questions about any of this, I think we have Q&A after this, but also try this out. Try a demo, talk to CS. We don't have any salespeople. We're not incentivized to do anything. We just like talking about this sort of thing. So give it a go. That's all from AHA, except until the questions.
Yeah, G, I think we'll hand it over to you.
That sounds good. All right, we have lots of questions here, and I'm happy that we're going to be able to chew through a number of them. I think that this was hugely helpful for a lot of folks here. So if anyone has questions, please, now is a good time to throw them into the Q&A box below. We'll give Ian and Eric an opportunity to get a drink of water before they start getting absolutely peppered by your many questions. So there's still time. Go ahead and throw them in the Q&A box. Okay, so I am going to I'm going to start at a high level, kind of at the beginning of our conversation. Ian, I'll throw this one to you first, but Eric, I'm really curious to hear what your thoughts are on this as well. We have someone who is looking for advice about introducing a really modern road mapping tool and driving adoption and use in a group of internal folks, right? Some added context is this is an operationally focused, highly tenured group from the commercial banking sector. So a little bit of context for the particular question asker, but in general, right? How do we drive adoption? How do we get someone to use a really great tool like this?
Yeah, absolutely. And so I'll mention that some of the same kind of strategies you use when getting things from your market, you're going to want to use when you're doing internal, whether it's an internal product or trying to be the promoter of change within your organization. One, understand the problems, and I think internally, especially the concerns or fears that internal folks may have. So for example, there's a lot of popularity now about things like now, next, later roadmaps, or things that have stepped back a bit from the date and more on the where are we, what is it we're really trying to do, what is the outcome rather than the output. And that can generate a lot of fear from sales, from marketing, from the executive team to feel like, well, how am I going to know when things are done? So it's about establishing those senses of communication. How am I going to keep you updated? How am I going to let you know where we are and what progress looks like? So I'm sure there are some cool ways in AHA that Eric's going to talk about there, but it's really about helping to understand what it is the fear, what are the ways that you can counteract that fear, and where can you start to generate excitement about saying, but if we do it this way, these are the benefits that you're going to experience. But yeah, I'd love to hear what Eric had to say.
Oh, fantastic. And I love that balance of addressing and mitigating the fear and then finding those moments of excitement. It's if you're switching to a new, more modern road mapping tool, there is a lot of features that you're looking for, but also those are both emotional things, relational things, like ways to show how you're doing and how you feel about your work. So it's AHA's big on strategy. We talk about going strategy first. I share my screen again. Oh, look how fast. We have in the knowledge base, which I managed with the team, we've got a whole article about how to go through a trial and think about what you're looking for in a road mapping tool and checking off things so you can answer some of those more intellectual process driven questions. But also to the emotional point, I think people's aha moment is when they see that first roadmap that is a beautiful visualization of their strategies. Some of you on the call today have spreadsheets and sticky notes and not a way to show with color and with progress and visualize by time how things are going. So I think opening up a trial and being able to show roadmaps and different roadmaps, different ways to visualize your strategy sometimes helps folks see a lot of hope and to feel like heroes because you're working incredibly hard, and being able to show progress towards that is a very cathartic thing, I think, for a lot of folks. The commercial banking side of things, if there's regulatory or security issues there, I welcome those, absolutely. Please continue to have those. I use this financial system as much as you do. So we, speaking for AHA personally, we have a whole security team, and you can send your PRDs over, and we go through, line by line by line for all those stuff about how data is stored and saved, and we work with, healthcare, banking, all that sort of thing.
Yeah, the other thing I'll mention is that a product life is also a partnership life. So if you're thinking of adopting a new tool, make sure that you're partnering early and often with your engineering team. What is it going to get that set up? What is it going to take to share it? What does licensing look like? Don't surprise them with, hey, I tried this trial and we're ready to go. When are we going to be on? Make sure that you're communicating early and often.
That's wise. That's very wise.
I've got a question, Eric, about a kind of a level of view in AHA when we are doing Nihito research, logging, and sharing, right? So this participant has several PMs that are all in the instance of AHA, and is wondering if there's kind of a higher level reporting option for Nihito meetings where the supervisor can see all of the different conversations that are happening, all of the different Nihito views kind of at a high level. Is that something that you can guide through?
Yes, I hope so. And disclaimer, anytime I can't guide through something, talk to CS, they are experts. But if you're having those high-level Nihito meetings, we've got stuff over here on the if you can still see my screen, this is called a product line. So in my demo workspace here, here's the Fredwin software product portfolio, and there's the different products that they offer. If someone maybe at this level wants to look over all Nihito happening across the portfolio and maybe see progress, but also talk about workflows and how, you know, cycling and running and swimming are all oriented towards market research, that can happen up on this level. The product line has a couple of neat things about it. You can set templates here that are accessible all the way down. You can actually set on different payment plans workspace templates. So these folks have all the same settings or the same terminology, or you can do a lot from top down here. That's really helpful, along with storing stuff here. So I work in marketing at AHA, and we have a marketing line with content and product and digital and all the different marketing teams down there. The stuff that lives up here in the marketing line is our big organizational meetings and the team lead meetings and some of our line level strategy, honestly, that gets filtered down. So the marketing initiatives, I create my own initiatives for the knowledge base that roll up to those. And I'm able to visualize how my workspace strategy is affecting marketing. Does that help?
Yeah, I think that's wonderful.
Cool.
Thank you. All right, this one for you, Ian. In your experience, do you think that it makes sense to, when you're trying to determine the problems that are worth solving, right? Do you think that it makes sense to add more criteria in addition to the urgency, pervasiveness, and willingness to pay? Do you think adding more criteria can be helpful and useful, or is that kind of treading more on over-analysis?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Now, I will caveat by saying you may work at a business that has a very specific set of criteria and ways that things are to be prioritized and thought about. I would recommend you start to consider how to normalize some of this new way of thinking. But for that particular set of three, really what we're trying to do is a very quick kind of litmus test of, this is a problem. I know my market, I'm an expert in it, and I talk to it all the time. Do I get a good sense of urgency, pervasiveness, willingness to pay? You don't want to put too much weight on that early set, that early part of the funnel, if you will, because there's so many problems. You are bombarded by them. You will not have time to do a full spreadsheet analysis of each of those. So I would use that more as your internal gut check. You're pretty quick. How do I validate quickly whether these are really one of these three things? And if I don't pass, then it moves on. And it may be something I noticed earlier. So I'm like, I don't want to lose a good idea. It's not urgent today, but it might be tomorrow. That's great to start thinking about, how do you separate out a potential problems backlog from this is what we're going to be work on product backlog. Oftentimes those things get conflated. The product backlog gets huge, and every 6 months you just go and wipe out a bunch of stuff that may be great later. Think instead about, what is your level of what are you going to help edit down, and then what gets moved over into where the teams may start to see it and realize it. So I wouldn't put too much weight early on. That middle section where you've kind of determined it's an opportunity and you're deciding if it's one your company should solve, that's where you're really going to want to talk with stakeholders and think about, what are the 4 or 5 criteria that are really important to us as a business? Is it investment level? Is it competitive? Is it, the new direction we want to go? How aligned is it to our strategy? That's when you're going to want to be collaborative and a little more clear on. But early on, this is really just about, let's make sure that the silly stuff stays off the desk.
Really helpful. I've got another question that I think I would really love to hear perspectives from both Ian and Eric on. So this is an asker whose problem is that he's got far more ideas coming into the ideas portal than the dev and QA team has capacity to address, right? I'm sure many on this conversation can relate to this, but here's the issue. There's a lot of really great ideas, and he doesn't want them to get lost in like a future bucket, right, that just languishes endlessly. But it's pretty likely that his team is not going to be able to consider them for years, like a couple years to come, right? Is there a specific way that you would think about categorizing that in AHA specifically? And then also, how do you represent those to your product team and also to your customers, right? So categorizing those ideas to your team so people don't feel demotivated, right, to never work on them. And also so customers don't feel like they have just been ignored and they haven't been addressed. So multifaceted question there. I will let each of you kind of wrap your hands around it as you see fit.
Yeah, Eric, you want to take a first swing there?
Yeah, sure. First off, I think it's worth starting with this is a high class problem. You have a community that's very engaged and they're talking to you. Like that is a blessing that so many of us, I used to work in startups, would just beg for. And so we can solve a lot of it, but first it's worth just enjoying someone who cares about your vision and your product and they have ideas. And I love that you've already recognized that the most innovative thing is probably in there, the thing that's going to inform a strategic pivot or help you really build something that your customers love. That's exciting. So I know it feels onerous to just be buried by years of ideas. I've worked in backlogs that are hundreds or thousands of features deep, and it's just it's disappearing into the abyss. There's a couple different ways you could attack it, short of just hiring 100 people. And that is this in AHA. What am I going to show you? Ideas. Let me show you our ideas portal again. So if someone adds a new idea in AHA, they get to choose a category. And they get to choose some urgency. And this is a custom layout that I can customize based on things that help me just bucket ideas very quickly. And on the back end, when I'm working here, I can then build reports or dashboards that look at just those buckets, something that someone feels very urgent about, and it's about our analytics side of things. And I'm talking, the sprint planning for the analytics team is tomorrow. Let's look at those top ideas, that sort of thing. So I can use those additional buckets. I can also go with things that have that are very popular, that have a lot of votes on them. If people are talking about an idea, then that's a sign that it's at least urgent to the people who I care most about and I'm building for. And so I can kind of slice away at this and baby steps my way to an entirely resolved ideas portal. I think that might help to. You can add your own custom metrics too and adjust that layouts to if you're an ideas advanced user, we have the concept of organizations. So you can group everyone that comes from a particular organization, maybe in a particular demographic or a segment that you're really interested in, and see, hey, what's AeroCycle into? What are their top ideas? I can see it right here and see what they're voting on most. So there's a couple different ways to take bites of that double XL ideas pizza there.
Yeah, I think a couple of things right off of what Eric just said, right, is remember, who is it that's experiencing this problem? Oftentimes idea portals can be very customer driven. So that is one piece of the pie of your segment that may not represent your evaluators, or it may not represent those potentials out there in the market that haven't heard about you yet, but may have that problem. So take some caution in terms of how much weight you're putting on there. The other thing I would just think about is that idea portals often come across as solution portals. This is saying, I want you to create a report that, or I want you to put a button here that does this. You're going to have to do some translation work to think about what is the problem that's existing there. If you have that ability to kind of affinity map and follow up, if you can do some Nihito interviews and try to understand, or maybe I saw a lot about AI on here, maybe GPT can be helping you with some affinity mapping to figure out what are those main buckets, and then maybe start to shift that thinking from the solution-based thinking to the problem-based thinking, and for who is experiencing that problem. That way we avoid another term we talk about here at Pragmatic is the noisy 20. It's very easy for the people that are coming into your face and telling you what you want to miss the quiet 80% back there that has problems and needs, but doesn't come forward and speak. So I love the idea of being able to get that feedback, that direct feedback, but think about the ways that you can quantify it as a problem, find out who it's for, and then put it in the context of the total market you're trying to serve.
All right, a little bit of a pivot in topic here, but a question that I have noticed come up in a number of different forms and descriptions across a lot of different askers. So I think it's a really important one for us to cover, right? So a number of folks on here are assigning scores to different ideas, features, roadmap items for prioritization, right? And they've all got multiple groups of stakeholder teams that are all assigning different parameters and different scoring based on really different value systems, right? So each scoring parameter is valued differently across the team, but they're all kind of in the same place assigning those scores, right? So how do you suggest that you get a group of stakeholders all together and really consolidate and calculate the final score for that prioritization? This is another one that I'd be really curious to hear both perspectives on.
Yeah, I'll start just to say that, oftentimes as product professionals, we don't have authority, but we have responsibility. And this is one of those responsibility areas. You're going to be the driver to say, I'm not going to come and tell you the 4 or 5 things we're going to use, but I am going to have the discussion with you, all the necessary stakeholders, to understand what is it that you're trying to value. When you say, I want to value this, what does that mean to you? Help understand some of the descriptions and understanding and get a shared and collaborative definition of the terms that we're using. The other thing to remember is that estimation is hard and it is fraught, right? What I think is an XL, Eric may think is an L, and Georgina wants it to be an XS because she's the CEO and she wants it done last week. Like these things just happen. And so that's where being open and being very clear and being able to have some sessions with the right groups of people to say, you use this score and I use this score. Let's talk that out. What does that mean to you? Why did you put it that way? In a very open and psychologically safe way. So I'm not defensive about my answer. I'm trying to give context to it. I think that's going to help you to start to normalize. But any of you that work with Scrum teams or Agile teams, use story points or t-shirt sizes or any of those knows, it just takes normalization and practice to try to get down to a similar way of thinking about each aspect. But love to hear what Eric's thoughts are.
Yeah, I thought that was so insightful. I think it's estimation and scoring is a proxy for value. It's a way to express something in like quantifiable terms that we have a lot of deep feelings and opinions about, right? Like we need to have a number just so we can decide what goes in the next sprint, if you're following sprints. But it's distilling a lot of psychological and business driven opinions. So having those meetings is, I think, would be really important and also really interesting, especially if you're working like we are across the product portfolio, to see how the runners think about product value and what the platform team is building and different teams there. There's a couple of different ways to implement this, depending how that shakes out. But I would definitely start with the end solution. You can have multiple scorecards on an item if you want to, especially if a dev team needs to size a thing, and that's different than an effort estimation. Or you can talk here and hammer it out. You can also move beyond the scorecard and just click and drag, right? And say, this is a 14 and this is a 15, but I think they're the more interested like that. It is a tricky situation, especially if there's not the ability. No, ability is the wrong word. If you don't want to just pull rank and say, this is the score that we're going to use across time. But I also think it's worthwhile to look backwards. So there's a report in AHA Roadmaps. I don't know if I have it here unless I'm in a team, called the Product Value Delivered Report. So we can look back over the last few sprints or the last few releases and see the total number of value that we've delivered to them, and to see if the scorecard metrics are working, right? Like the whole point of this is not to agree on a number. The point is to deliver something that customers actually love and that's useful for our business as far as them, continuing to engage with our product and services. So that's useful too. It might just take a period of experimentation and then looking back to say, okay, using this metric, here's how accurate you are. You can. Because last thing I'll say is because we're scoring, at least in AHA Roadmaps, at a couple of different periods. When I'm reviewing ideas and also when I'm reviewing features, I can report on these scores side by side as well, after it's all over, or even while it's happening, and say, okay, this came in with an idea score of 15 and then it dropped down to a 7 when we actually got it into a release, and that could be fine. Like we don't necessarily need a completely accurate idea score, but we like to say in AHA that the reports don't say something's good or bad, but they create opportunities for a conversation to say, why is that so different? Is there something about how we think about ideas that's different? Is there more different questions we should be asking? Are we actually building the right things at the end of the day when we go to kind of the analysis step of the development life cycle?
Yeah, and Eric spoke as a great pragmaticist to say, when in doubt, go back to the market. What is the
Yeah.
market telling you? What is the evidence? What is the impact that the market has to say? This is quantitative. It is also qualitative. It can be emotionally driven, but if you bring strong market evidence, you're the one that's bringing what matters most.
All right, we are right at the top of the hour. I swear, I just looked at the clock and we had time for like 3 more questions. But
No.
when you're having fun, time flies. So that is all that we have time for today. I am going to wrap it up here. There are still so many questions that people have asked, and I'm really excited to answer all of them. So I really encourage you to continue the conversation. You are all going to receive an email in the coming days with a recording of this conversation, also with links for how to continue asking some of your very specific AHA questions with Eric and team at AHA, right? Some really great questions about how AHA integrates with things, how to get particular views that are going to work for your instance. We're going to answer all of those questions for you. There were also a number of questions that I think your peers would have a really great answer for. Questions like, when in my product maturity cycle is the right time to introduce a roadmap tool? Or, how do I make sure I don't squander community engagement when in my ideas portal, when I'm not going to get to 80% of those ideas, but I want to make sure they're valued, right? Those kinds of questions, those will be great to ask in Pragmatic's alumni community. So really look forward to continuing the conversation with you. Most of all, though, this has clearly been hugely helpful for so many people. Eric, Ian, thank you so much for being with us. This has been a really wonderful time.
Thank
Absolutely.
you.
Thank you for the opportunity.
All right. Bye, everybody. We'll catch you next time.
Yeah.